Well, hello out there, and welcome to this episode of A Journey Through a Course in Miracles. This is a project that I started in late January 2022, and I am so excited to be doing this. It's something that was in my heart for a long time, and now I get to do it, and I'm so happy. See that big smile on my face. And this project is sponsored by Truly Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that is devoted to the sharing of advanced spiritual teachings. And we also we support other nonprofit organizations that we feel a need to support. That's the way that we share our proceeds from our organization. So thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm going to start actually in the chapter 1 of A Course in Miracles. If you got a book, you can follow along, but if not, you can just listen along. In chapter 1, I'm going to actually start out in section 2. I'm not going to cover the section that's on the meaning of miracles, principles of miracles. I'm going to do that at another time. I really wanted to really get into the text itself. So we started on page 7. If you have the blue book, again, there are a few versions of this. There you go. And I'm going to start on page 7, and under section 2, it's called Revelation, Time, and Miracles. Revelation, Times, and Miracles. Revelation, from the Course's perspective, when it uses the term revelation, it's talking about a direct communication between love and love's creation. And let me also say this, that from the Course's perspective, okay, that love or God only created one thing. And its idea of creation is extension. And so the whole idea of love is that love is all there is. God is all there is. There's God and there's nothing else. And God's only creation was the extension of himself, or the extension of love's presence. Okay? And so in that process of extension, it's called creation. Okay? That's the idea of creation from the Course's perspective. That it is love presence, or God, or that which is, extends itself. So whatever is doing the extension is also that which is being extended. So there's no difference. So there's still only the one thing. So revelation is just a direct communication of love communicating with itself. We know how that works. Sometimes we talk to ourselves. Okay, so that's the idea. Love talks to itself. God talks to itself. God extends himself, communicates with himself. Okay, and again, if I use pronouns, that's just for the purpose of the way the book is presented, because the book is written in the context of an ego thought system of separation. in order for it to point the hearer to the reality of oneness, to the reality of non-duality, back to the entire idea that there's God and that there is nothing else. And so if there's God and there's nothing else, so if we, or if you, or if I, if I am exists, if I exist, and we know we exist because we have consciousness, we are aware of being aware, so we know that we or exist. So if we exist in this place of consciousness, we exist because we are a part, or we are the same being that God extended. So we are the God self. We are the extension of God, or the one creation of God, or love's presence. So it says revelation induces complete but temporary suspension of doubt and fear. Direct communication, self-talking to self. It reflects the original form of communication between love and love's creations, involving the extremely personal sense of creation, sometimes sought in physical relationships. So he's comparing it to what is sought in a physical relationship. A oneness is sought in a physical relationship. A direct communication is sought in a physical, sexual, or non-sexual relationship. Physical closeness cannot achieve it. Okay? Physical closeness cannot achieve the idea of revelation or direct communication. Miracles, however, are geniusly interpersonal and result in true closeness to others. When the Course talks about miracles, it's talking about direct communication, is talking about having a shift in the way one thinks, the way one perceives. A shift from separation to a shift to oneness. That is a miracle. When you become aware that it is nothing in reality but the one thing. When we shift our perception from thinking in terms of duality, subject, object, and shifting that perception to source only, and even that appears as a object is really a projection of the source. So it's still the same one thing. That is, when you grab that revelation or that understanding, that is a shift in perception. That is what the Course refers to as one idea as what a miracle is. Revelation unites you directly with God, or with love presence, or reunites you with love's presence. Because the whole idea here is that it's talking to this book is directing its conversation. This is a conversation. It's directing its conversation to a person or a mind that think that it is separated from the one that's talking. Okay? There's a belief that a separation occurred. We talked about that in the introduction. But in reality, there is no separation. But because there's a belief in it, then the book approaches the student from a duality point of view, because that's where the student think that they are. Okay? So this is a conversation going on from truth, from that which is real, that which is heaven. You know, we used we spoke about the words that are really synonymous as we go through this. We said that God and love, Christ, Holy Spirit, truth, reality, knowledge, and heaven. These are all synonymous terms from the course's perspective. These are all terms that you would find in Christian literature. So, this, like I said, the book is written in Christian terms, though it's not a Christian book. Okay, it's just terminology that is somewhat universally accepted. Okay, so Revelation unites you directly to God, as though you're not already united. Reality is you're already united, but from a separation perspective, there's God, and then there's me. Okay. It says miracles unite you directly to your brothers. Okay. Revelation is a direct communication with God, and it says that miracles unite you directly with your brothers. When you have a change in perception, you realize that your brother and you are the same, or one. So it unites. So when a miracle occurs, we understand that we are united with all humanity. Why we call it a miracle? Because in our unnatural state, there is a belief in separation. And we live in a world that is separated by so many, on so many levels, based on so many criteria. Humanity seems to be fragmented. But when you gain a true perception of the one brotherhood, the one life that we share, then that unites us as one. It says neither of these emanates from consciousness, but both are experienced there. Consciousness is the state that induces action, though it does not inspire it action. You are free to believe what you choose, and what you do attest to what you believe. Revelation is intensely personal and cannot be meaningfully translated. In other words, direct communication is extremely intensely personal and cannot be meaningfully translated. That is why any attempt to describe it in words is impossible. Revelation induces only experience. Miracles, on the other hand, induces action. If we perceive our brother as one with us and ourselves, it induces action in us to love our brother, to support our brother. They are more useful now because of their interpersonal nature. In this phase of learning, working miracles is important because freedom from fear cannot be thrust upon you. Freedom from fear can't be thrusted upon you. Can't be forced upon you. Can you imagine your daughter laying in the bed, having a nightmare, and you go over to her and you begin to violently shake her to wake her up, to let her know that she's only dreaming? That would even startle her even much more, frighten her even much more. So we're saying that it says that working miracles is important because freedom from fear cannot be thrust upon you. Revelation is literally unspeakable because it is an experience of unspeakable love. So when there's a direct communication from reality to reality, it's an unspeakable revelation. It's an unspoken awareness Like when Helen heard a voice with no sound that says, "This is A Course in Miracles." That was her first experience with this voice that actually downloaded or uploaded what we now call A Course in Miracles, the book itself. That was a personal revelation, communication within her reality, within love's presence, that had no voice. It was unspeakable love. It was unspeakable love. All should be reserved for revelation. In other words, we should be awed by this direct communication, to which it is perfectly and correctly applicable. It is not appropriate for miracles because a state of awe is worshipful, implying that one is a lesser order than before his creator. You are a perfect creation. Okay, now it's begin to talk the language of the Course. Because the language of the Course is a beautiful language. It says, you are a perfect creation. Why? Because creation is extension. Love extended himself. Love is perfect. When it extends itself, it's perfect. A perfect creation. We are that which love extended, a perfect creation. Not in form, but in the very likeness of love itself, the very nature of love itself. You are a perfect creation and should experience all only in the presence of the Creator of perfection. The miracle is therefore a sign of love among equals. Your idea of being aware and being conscious, the one thing you do know is that you are conscious and that you are aware. You may not know why, but you know that you are. You may not know what for, but you know that you are aware and that you are conscious. You do know that. That's why we are inspired to call that awareness I, or I am. I am aware. I am conscious. I am love. I am, right? So that I am speaks of aware presence or pure presence or love's presence. I am present. I am aware. And so when I'm in the presence of this awareness, that is what the only thing that is to be in awe of, this oneness. Equals should not be in awe of one another because awe implies inequality. So in the world, we put people up on a pedestal or, and we are in awe of them. It says here that we should not be in awe of one another because it implies inequality. And we are not unequal. There is no inequality. We're all one. We're all the same. We all share the same being. We all share the same extension. We are that creation of love's presence and we all share that. So there are no lessers or more, no inequality in reality. We're all equal. So we should not be in awe of one another. In the East, they use this form of salutation to one another by putting the hands together, and they say namaste, which means I recognize the divinity in you, you recognize the divinity in me. In other words, we recognize our equality. Namaste, that's what it means. Okay, the divinity in me recognizes and acknowledges the divinity in you. So there's nothing to be in awe of. We share the same being, the same creation. We are love's presence. It is therefore an inappropriate reaction to love. To love present itself, to God. It's an inappropriate reaction to be in awe. To be in awe is to acknowledge that you are not aware that you have equality. You have equality with the source of your existence, which is love's presence. If you have any biblical knowledge, the Apostle Paul caught that revelation over in Philippians. I think it was Philippians chapter 2, when he said, "Let this mind be in you, that was also in Christ Jesus, who was in the form of a man, thought it not robbery to be equal with God." So when Jesus, the sage Jesus, when he walked the earth, he knew of this oneness that we're talking about. He knew of this equality that we were talking about. He knew that he was an extension of his, in his term back then, the Father representing love's presence. So he said he thought he was not robbing or taking anything away from his Creator, his Father God, by saying that he was equal with God, because he understood that his creation was an extension of the very one thing that exists. That is a big pill for humanity to swallow. And we reject it in so many ways. We'll run out and create a religion that separates us from God. And say, no, we have to be in awe of him and worship him and adore him. There's only God. He's the only worthy. You know, all of the conditionings that we have, that there's a separation, there's a gulf between us and creation, us and love's presence. But the Course is correcting this misperception that genders fear, that causes us to be in fear and in guilt and sin conscious if we hold to the idea that separation is a reality. It's an unreality. Don't make no difference how many years we have perpetuated this idea. If it's not real, it does not exist. And over time, it will not hold up. But the Course is introducing to us the reality of our oneness with love itself. It says so. An elder brother is entitled to respect for his greater experience and obedience for his greater wisdom. So the voice that Helen identified, this voice from her experience, from her perspective, she identified this voice that she was hearing as the resurrected Christ that was uploading these ideas to her. So she identified the voice as the resurrected Christ. So speaking from his perspective, from that perspective of a separate self, he's saying that though I'm just an elder brother, but I'm not. There's no difference between you and me. There's no. I'm not higher ranked than you or anything like that. It's that I'm just an elder brother, meaning I went out before you. That's all it means. It says, and because of that, he said, therefore, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate for you to even be an all to me. He said, because we're equals. He said, an elder brother is entitled to respect for his greater experience and obedience for his greater wisdom. He is also entitled to love because he is a brother, and to devotion if he is devoted. It is only my devotion that entitles me to yours, because he's saying that my devotion to truth and to reality is the only reason you should be devoted to me. He said, but I'm devoted to you. There is nothing about me that you cannot obtain, that you cannot experience. Why? Because we're the same. We are equals. He said, I have nothing that do not come from God. I have nothing that does not come from God. I have nothing that does not come from love present. I have nothing that comes from the source of truth. So he's acknowledging here that there's only reality and there's nothing else. The difference between us now is that I have nothing else. This leaves me in a state which is only potential in you. So he's stating that he's in that pure aware state and he has nothing else. Whereas we are still, right, here in this dimension, appearing to be here. And so we're still grappling with our identity. So we're having, our identity is established, but we've added on this idea of separation and illusion and scarcity and lack and fear and sin consciousness and all the other things that we deal with here. But he said, I don't have that. I'm clear of that. He said, the only difference between me and you is I just have reality, and that's it. I'm done with the journey that you guys are on, appear to be on. He said, no man cometh unto the Father but by me, does not mean that I am in any way separate or different from you, except in time. And time does not really exist. So here he's acknowledging that time and space is an illusion or a dream-like state that we are experiencing. And that he said that he is separate or different from us except in time. And time does not exist. The statement is more meaningful in terms of a vertical than a horizontal axis. And I know this is kind of like, but it's going to make sense as we get through it. And we're about finished with this session. It says, you stand below me and I stand below God. In the process of rising up, I am higher, because without me, the distance between God and man would be too great for you to encompass. I bridge the difference as an elder brother to you on the one hand, and as a son of love on the other. My devotion to my brothers have placed me in charge of the family of love. He calls it the sonship, which I render complete because I share it. We all share the one being. He calls it sonship. That means that we all share love's presence. We all share the one life. This may appear to contradict the statement, I and my Father are one, but there are two parts to the statements in recognition of the Father, in recognition that the Father is greater. Revelations are indirectly inspired by me because I am close to love's presence and alert to the revelation readiness of my brothers. I can thus bring down to them more than they can draw down to themselves. Love present mediate higher to lower communication, keeping the direct channel from God to you open for revelation. Revelation is not reciprocal. It proceeds from God to you, but not from you to God. The miracle minimizes the need for time. In the longitudinal and horizontal plane, the recognition of the equality of the members of the sonship or the family appears to involve almost endless time. However, the miracle entails a sudden shift from horizontal to vertical perception. This introduces an interval from which the giver and receiver both emerges farther along in time than they would otherwise have been. The miracle thus has the unique property of abolishing time to the extent that it renders the interval of time it spans unnecessary. Actually, it says that a miracle collapses time. When we come into an awareness of being the extension of love's presence, and that time is an illusion, space is an illusion, or it's outside of this reality, and it actually, when we accept that, it collapses time. Our awareness of the truth of our reality, it collapses time. It eliminates activities and events that, and saves us from a lot of suffering. The knowing of the truth saves us a tremendous amount of suffering. And so it collapses time. Because time is, is being used to wake us up from this dream-like experience, and this experience of suffering because of a belief in being separate from our Creator, being separate from love's presence. There is no relationship between the time a miracle takes and the time it covers. The miracle substitutes for learning that might have taken thousands of years. It does so by the underlying recognition of perfect equality of giver and receiver. Get that? When there is a shift in our perception, in the way we perceive, we go from a perception of separation to a perception of oneness and equality. It saves us thousands of years. And we understand that the giver and the receiver is all one. It's the same. Giving and receiving is the same. The giver and the receiver is the same. Remember, love extended itself. But it's the same self. So the giver and the receiver is the same nature, the same essential self. When we get a perception of that reality, it basically just collapses time. You come to understand that you are now thinking and being outside of time and space, even though you are appearing in time and space, or appearing to be appearing in time and space in a body. But in reality, your awareness is beyond time and space, because you are hanging out in your reality of love's presence, where there's no sin, no guilt, no judgment, no separation, no fear, no tragedy, no world. Yeah. It says the miracle shortens time by collapsing it, thus eliminating certain intervals within it. Intervals are not even a reality. There are no, when you embrace the reality of oneness, there are no intervals, there's no times, there's no seasons, there's no nothing, but is. The only thing that exists is love's presence. And you just hang out and abide in the present. The comings and the goings of the world doesn't mean anything. Life is as it's always been. It's unalterable. It's endless. It has no beginning, no end. All those attributes we talked about before. And you just bounce like this. You be happy because you know what time it is. It said it does this, however, within the larger temporal sequence. So that is the section 2 of chapter 1, talking about revelation, time, and miracles. Just trying to introducing us to these ideas of, direct communication, the illusion of time, and how when you get a direct revelation or understanding or an awareness of this, love is all that exists, and that if love is all that exists and you are part of that, you are all that exists as love. And so the need for time and space or time-space experience is not needful anymore. And so it collapses time, it eliminates time. But then we still find ourselves in this dimension, appearing in a body. So why are we still here? Hey, because we got other brothers and we got other brothers and sisters that are not walking in this awareness, believing in separation. So we remain here to be a part of the waking up of humanity. So this, like I said in the introduction, this is advanced teaching now. This is not elementary stuff. It's not religious stuff. This is heavenly stuff. So stick with me, stay with me on this journey. We're going somewhere. And then when we get there, we realize we were on this journey without a distance, because we remain as God created us, as love created us. Thank you for joining me in this segment. And I look forward to future segments. Namaste.